ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Real Estate America's Newsroom. It is the 14th of June. Congratulations, we made it once again. We've got an action-packed show. A whole bunch of awesome people sitting in the backstage right now, eating cookies and drinking their favorite beverage, waiting to go ahead and share their knowledge with you. But we're going to get right into it. Phoenix area builders and developers are starting to move into the tiny home segment. So we're going to go ahead and rip on a report like that. North Texas family loses their home after the builder backs out without warning. And we're talking like 5 to 10 days. They are ready to move in, already bought the refrigerator, already sold their previous house. You guys got to go ahead and see this as a warning. Will the good old Fed force us into a recession? We're going to go ahead and find out. We're going to roundtable that with everybody. HGTV's Miss Cammie Baker joins the show to go ahead and talk about her new book, Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not. So we're going to go ahead and get everybody introduced to Miss Cammie. She's awesome. If you don't know her, you should. Everybody that we know loves her. So she's joining the show. Idaho housing market is cooling down and actually doubled up its inventory. And we're going to get into mortgage and appraiser news with Mr. Captain Kirk Jaffe and Mark Bueller. So, but before we get rolling forward, as always, I'm going to introduce my esteemed and fellow co-host, Mr. Nick Sakis. How are you doing today, Mr. Nick?
What's up, buddy? I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I think there's a lot of angry people out there. There's frustration brewing. There's inflation's at all-time high. Consumer confidence is at all-time low. And there's a lot of interesting things that are happening in the real estate space.
People are getting a little chippy. Called a little chippy out there, right?
So HGTV's Cammie Baker joins the show.
Yep.
So she's got an awesome new book talking about real estate gifting. Pretty awesome.
Have you heard about not real estate news, but Google artificial intelligence has been in the news lately, and there's a lot of people upset talking about being chippy about the Google artificial intelligence basically becoming sentient or having real feelings and emotions and real thoughts. And so I posted something on my timeline earlier about that. Like, I think there's a lot of people getting really excited about that. Artificial intelligence is definitely progressing at a speed faster than we can comprehend. But I think everybody should just worry about the thoughts in your own head and everything that you can control, because worrying about what artificial intelligence can or can't do is a non-productive thing to worry about. So
okay, well, We'll keep an eye on artificial intelligence and let you know about its feeling. Maybe the one right now multiplying into more.
That's right.
So, cool, awesome. Well, why don't we just go ahead and roll right into it? I'm curious. Looks like there's some folks down in Phoenix that are starting to build some of these tiny homes and kind of get into that affordability sector. Let's see what the mainstream news has to say about what say you, Nick.
Check it out.
Let's do it.
Tiny homes are more popular than ever during this crazy housing market, and with more people working from home. And a new company in the Valley is getting into the business, specializing in building small homes right on your existing property. And Stephanie Almo takes a tour.
Minimal Living Concepts is a real estate development company based in Scottsdale. They started up just over a year ago, and since then they have built and sold over 50 homes. It was early 2021, during the middle of the pandemic, when Jared Amzalag and his real estate partner came to Arizona to start their company. Jared found people were asking for more space, 1 bedroom, even up to 3 bedroom units, right on their property.
I think people in Arizona became a lot more real estate and property conscious. Started realizing, the difference between looking at going and purchasing another property while the market is going crazy versus building something on your current property.
They started building small units ranging from 165 square feet to 1,900 square feet. Jared says they want to deliver a premium minimal living concept with these.
Essentially what we've done is put together a completely streamlined pre-designed process for people who want to come to anybody to have a guest home built.
And that's what appealed to George Hasiotis. He now has a 700 square foot unit sitting right in his backyard in Phoenix.
Costs less than a nice recreational vehicle, and it doesn't doesn't depreciate in value, it appreciates, and it adds appreciation to the property value as well.
He says the main reason why he's decided on adding the unit is to host his friends and family.
We've already had friends and family at least 4 or 5 times since March coming in for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. They love it because it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's got a great view, separate entrance, so it's kind of perfect.
The process from start to finish takes right around 180 days. For more information, head over to fox10phoenix.com. In Phoenix, I'm Stephanie Olmo, Fox 10 News.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that report. So, tiny homes. Nick, what say you?
Lots and lots of practical applications, right?
Sure.
I think I was just talking about this the other day or yesterday with a client of mine about how there's a lot of tract builders in the Tampa Bay area specifically that are building they have 2 or 3 floor plans that include in-law suites. Like, so you have a house that has an in-law suite, but it's not just a suite, it's like a division of the house. So there'll be like a 2-car garage on one side and a 1-car garage on the other. And you go in through the 1-car garage and you have one full side of the house as in-laws. And I think because of inflation, because of everything that's going on right now, there's a lot more people living in communities, right? Families are living together. So like this idea of, well, you can stay in your current property, you can have this other piece of property in your backyard or place to live. This could be great for in-laws or just the cash flowing aspect of it, right? The Airbnb side of just utilizing all of your property to make more money. I think it's a great idea. Obviously you have to check with your local zoning laws because like in Pinellas County, it's a no-no. But yeah, it's definitely something that's I think it's a great idea.
Tim, some of these tiny homes are the same size as those Texas deer hunters, deer stands, right? So I've driven through Texas quite a bit and I see these houses on stilts out hunting for deer. Practicality, size, helping people out, affordable, curbing inflation, additional living accommodations. What say you on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think adaptability is important, and you got people right now that are, if you can't upgrade your house because you can't sell it or you're afraid to sell it and go buy something new because you're priced out of that particular market, then you can add square footage in the form of additional square footage, in the back of the house. And I totally agree with Nick that you've got to make sure that your zoning laws, your HOAs, or whatever the case may be, allow for that. But I think it is a phenomenal way. I mean, I would personally spend money on a tiny addition in the backyard than I would a pool. That's just me, because I know that I can get resale value out of it. I know I could turn it into a home office that's out of my house, right? I can write off the entire space because it's a dedicated space, or I can have it as guest room. And so yeah, the just flexibility of it is absolutely there. And we've got friends with similar type setups where they're renting them out and they're just making a rental income to offset their actual mortgage. And so because rents are a premium right now, yeah, I mean, 500 square foot, studio type apartment set up in the backyard, that's a nice little income that helps offset things. So yeah, I say go for it.
Mark, how much does this add as far as value goes to a home?
That's a great question. The ADU issue has become prevalent now in the appraisal space. And in my state, in California, in 2017, they passed legislation that allows any homeowner to build what we call an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, granny flat, guest house. And in 2020, they loosened that up even more in a response to the housing shortage. What's happening on the appraisal side is a lot of these are being utilized for Airbnbs, but we're not really able by Fannie Mae guidelines to utilize that rental stream. We would have to compare it to a monthly rental, because now we're talking about a going concern or a business entity in addition to the real estate. But it's top of mind for everybody around here. The drawback about it is what I see is the cost. It's $200 to $300 a square foot, which is cost prohibitive. So, but the rents, they're getting $2,000 plus for rentals on these. And as Nick mentioned, the majority of them that I see being built are for multi-generational living. Grandma's moving in, the kids are growing their family. Yours is shrinking, so you move out to the granny flat in the backyard, and they move into the house, and it just makes room for everybody, makes everything a little bit more affordable. But it's becoming an issue on the valuation side.
Mr. Captain Kirk, Jaffe, how can I go ahead and borrow money to build
You
one?
can. In fact, you can borrow 100% of the cost to install one of these. And did you know it's also a 43% less carbon blueprint, because most of these tiny homes, ADUs, certainly there are options where you can have a manufactured home built in a factory, which has all the filters and things that would need to protect the environment. So a great way, FHA 203K loans will allow you to use a modular unit and finance 100% of that up to the conforming high balance loan limits. So it's a great program and a great opportunity right now. I mean, I don't know if the sky's falling or not, but if property values go down, we're probably not going to see the conforming loan limit go down. I don't think that's ever happened. I think they raise the conforming loan limit and it stays there. So that creates a gap. Property value goes down, you have an additional value of to make a loan. You can install these units and finance them.
Outstanding. So they become fixed, permanent, so that it's not in the mobile side of the house, right? So this is a fixed structure.
Yeah, they build it in a factory and they install it on a permanent foundation.
Interesting. Very good.
Different states have different rules around it. Oregon, it's pretty popular there, and they're allowing for these tiny homes in some cases to have wheels on them and to be movable, so you can just plop them on whatever property that you can. But it's all jurisdictional. Like Nick said, in certain areas in his market, they're just not allowed at this point.
So
And
I
Mark,
see
ahead,
I see the manufacturers are starting to not fix these tiny homes on top of a frame that would be considered like a mobile home, right? But they actually have an internal axle where you can plug in wheels that then ratchet up so you can move them. So it's just an accessory to move, but once it's fixed, it's fixed. And if they ever have to go ahead and do move it, now all of a sudden it's an external accessory that ratchets these things up, which is pretty crafty. So go ahead, Nick. You were going to say something?
No, I was going to say, so Mark mentioned about the cost being prohibitive. I don't know if I necessarily 100% agree with that. So like, if you think about any major business right now that has really succeeded, right? A lot of what we care about the most right now, even though we're in a down economy and money's tight and inflation's happening, like we care about time, right? Time is an asset that we can't get back. So if I'm somebody who's thinking about this and I'm going, okay, I could build an extension on my house and wait 3 to 6 months if it even gets done with all the things that are going on supply chain, or I can get a slam dunk one of these things done in 30 days and the price is the same, I'm going with the 30-day option, right? So I think there's a clear winner as far as what you're looking at with these home remodels, because nobody wants to live through it. Nobody wants to have a side of their house in Visqueen because they're adding on an addition, and where you just plop one of these in, it's super convenient. And even though the cost might be the same, I think more people are going to gravitate towards something like this in the future. And I think it might be $300 in California, but it's not $300 a square foot in Tampa, right? for the areas that we can do that. So I definitely think this is going to catch a lot of fire. The stigma of the trailer park or mobile home, like that whole idea of that being like a inexpensive thing, is that the tide is shifting with that now, right? You can have a really, really nice, flexible home that doesn't have to be something that you couldn't afford a big house. Now you're actually opting to do this because there could be a scenario. What if 20 years, my son, instead of being a snowbird and having 2 5,000 square foot houses, one up north and one down south, they just have multiple tiny homes throughout the country, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the new way of flexibility. I can have 3 tiny homes in different locations versus one main home in a place where I'm growing up. So there's a lot of possibilities with this.
Paul, North Carolina. you guys see any tiny homes happening up there?
Yeah. So I'm really curious to know, is Phoenix in Arizona, are they considered real property? Just like Florida, we're having restrictions on tiny homes.
Mhm.
They have to be put on, they're not considered real property. They look at them as RVs, built to RV standards, not to stick built standards here. And they have to be on a property that's been allowed by the local ordinances. And they have to be on where there's a residential. So there has to be a mailbox and there has to be a residential house there to put a tiny home if it passes all the red tape. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to do this in Arizona. Is it going to be considered real property? And I had a question for Kirk about the FHA, because I know if there's two properties on a house, there he is. I don't know if it's going to be considered real property or not, because I know if there's two houses, two homes on a property, like say there's an in-law suite and they're growing FHA, that in-law suite can be considered income producing and may prohibit the FHA funding, if that's correct, Kirk.
Yeah, they're going to look at it as residential property without income. So you got to be able to carry that cost to install it. You got to put it on a permanent foundation to make it real property. But you can have up to 4 units and get FHA financing. So you could technically put 3 of these on your existing single family dwelling property, as long as your local codes allow it, and still get this financing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If they want another mailbox, they just want that property tax, man. That's all it's about.
Well, that's what they're doing out here. I mean, that's one of the theories out here in California. They can't raise taxes. Prop 13 out here in California locked down the tax rates. So what they're doing is increasing property values by adding more square footage through these ADUs, and then increasing the tax rates. So yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to introduce you to HGTV's Miss Cammie Baker. She's joining the newsroom here. She's got a phenomenal book that she just went ahead and wrote, and we're going to get right into that. We're going to introduce her early on in this segment so she can partake in some of the additional things we're going to talk about.
It is okay. You have my permission to make money as an entrepreneur and can I get an amen? Let's make some money up in here. Personal branding is what people say about you when you're not around. How do people really see you? Because your brand is what people say about you. And so in all communication that you have, written, verbal, and face-to-face, on social media, in your emails, in your texts, you're always communicating or networking or netwebbing, as I call it, and you're always personal branding. And when I walk into a room anywhere in a 50-mile radius and people recognize me, I know that I am personally branding myself, because that's really powerful when you walk into a room and people recognize you and they know what you're all about.
Baker, thank you for joining us here at Real Estate America's Newsroom. You have an amazing new book that you just went ahead and wrote and released, and tell us all about it. Real estate is hot and fundraising is not.
Well, you know, seeing my old speaker reel just brings me back, because that was all about the book Mingle to Millions when I was teaching people about networking. But after 15, 18 years in the real estate industry and doing a lot of fundraising as a realtor and knowing, you know, the pain of being a real estate agent, out making phone calls and door knocking and calling expireds and for sale by owners and competing, and the pain of all the fundraising that the nonprofits are doing. 2.5 years ago, just before the pandemic, I'm at a conference and I hear the magical words, charitable gifting of real estate. And I thought, how could I have done so much real estate and so much fundraising, from Ronald McDonald House and Make-A-Wish to the smallest local nonprofit, and have never heard of this? So what I learned, Jake, is this: $9 billion a year is currently donated to nonprofits through the gifting of real estate. Every donation of real estate, in order to get that cash to the nonprofit world, needs to be listed and liquidated. So this is not about realtors giving a donation or doing a charitable listing. This is about getting paid a full commission to help donations of real estate be liquidated to fund our nonprofits nationwide. And so with the 1.5 million nonprofits out there, they need our help. And those 2 million realtors need listings. So right now I'm traveling the country in my RV. I'm in Florida. Right here in Florida, there are 160,000 nonprofits. Right in Pinellas County, there are 10,000 nonprofits. In Orlando, there are 11,000 nonprofits. The point is, the opportunity is huge for us to help those nonprofits and get paid what we're worth as real estate agents. So
break this down for me. How does the gift start, right? So let's say I want to gift one of my pieces of property. Kind of take us through the transaction.
Sure. So the reason why most of us have never heard of this is because 99.9% of nonprofits will not take your gift of real estate. It's too complicated. It's risky. They're confused. They don't know what to do it. And what if you have a mortgage on that property? So we'll just use one as an example. Let's say that you have a nonprofit in Phoenix that you love and you want to donate $1 million condo that's in Florida. And this $1 million condo has a $200,000 mortgage as an example. What happens is we have a system, we have what is called a specialized nonprofit. In other words, it is a 501c3 whose only purpose for existing is to actually take gifts of real estate on behalf of any and all other nonprofits and pay off mortgages, give the donor cash if they want, hire the real estate agent at a full commission, and when it's liquidated, they give 90% of the proceeds to the nonprofit in Phoenix. So it's really rather simple. People say, well, who would donate real estate? Friends, there are people out there that are calling nonprofits trying to donate real estate because they're a veteran, because they have a house full of animals, because their mother died from breast cancer. People are wanting to help the nonprofit world, and it is the nonprofits themselves that is saying no to this. So when you have a specialized nonprofit, work with a group like ours, the Real Agents of Change, you can donate that property in Florida. You can give part of it to the Boys and Girls Club here. You can put it all in a donor advised fund if that's what you want to do. So it's all about how can you liquidate the real estate easy, risk-free for the nonprofit world, and make sure that our realtors get paid to do it.
That's fantastic. Nick, what say you on gifting of real estate?
I feel like Cammy's going to get called by all the wholesalers that watch our show. Want in on these properties. I've never heard of this before. I really, been raised as a real estate brat and got my license in 2005. And I don't know anything about this process. So this is all interesting to me.
Nick, you're absolutely in good company. I had never heard of it. 99.9% of people had just flat out never heard of it, because if the nonprofits in your neighborhood won't take gifts of real estate, there's been no need to learn about it, because no matter how fabulous it is, when you say, hey, I got a condo in Florida that I want to donate to you, and they say, sorry, we don't take real estate, 99% of them say that, there's been no point in teaching it. But when I heard it 2.5 years ago, with my real estate background and my fundraising background, I heard it different, I guess, than anybody else in 100 years. It's been a tax law since 1917. So this isn't new. What is new is us bringing it to the world, being the megaphone, letting people know it doesn't matter what market you're in. Real estate's hot, fundraising's not, isn't about this time and this market. Any city, any state, any year, any market, real estate will always be a better way to fund nonprofits than fundraisers, because we have 43% of our wealth in real estate. Only 3% of our wealth is in cash, but that's what all the nonprofits are begging for. So when we can help them shift from looking for pocket change to starting to get funded through our wealth bucket of real estate, that's when transformation happens.
Absolutely. Kirk,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
comes to a time sometimes where family members unfortunately pass away, and additional homes become burdens and tax liabilities and different things. What say you on this?
Yeah, I've got a couple different ideas. I used to be an assistant executive director of a nonprofit when I first moved out to California many years ago, and we were working heavily to raise these types of opportunities for the foundation. And it is a great way to transfer wealth, tax benefit wise, into a organization and a community that you may care about. It also makes me think of the book Relationships that I put together, because this is a great opportunity for you real estate agents. We focus on real estate agents and helping them grow. We're in a tough market right now as real estate professionals on the mortgage and the real estate side. So let's leverage those relationships. Let's go talk to the CPAs, the financial planners, the insurance agents, and I can teach you guys all how to do this. You can download the book and then get over to Cami and let's donate some property and help the nonprofits. People are going to need help here soon.
Kirk, I love that you said that, because when we at the Real Agents of Change are talking about charitable gifting of real estate, the fact is that's only really 10% of the conversation, because knowing what this is completely irrelevant if we aren't out telling people and bringing in those donations. So the 5 steps that we go through to leverage real estate for real change, I'd love to talk to you, Kirk, about some partnership and collaboration. Step number 1, key number 1, as we call it, key number 1 is to learn what the heck this is. Wrap your head around it. We do that in a master class once a month live. Key number 2, lead generate. Because now that you know what it is, you got to go out and lead generate or nothing's ever going to happen. Key number 3, list and liquidate. This is the same listing any real estate agent has ever taken from the perspective of they're just putting a property on the market and selling it. But the difference is, instead of it being that emotional grandma and the 4 kids that all want to tell you how to do your job, the property is donated to the specialized nonprofit, which gives the donor the tax benefits they're looking for. And now the specialized nonprofit is the seller. They are the ones listing. They're the ones that already guarantee a full commission. They're savvy, they're business minded, they're not emotional. So that's key number 3, is to list and liquidate. Key number 4, leverage. Leverage is my middle name. I love talking to people. How do you leverage real estate for real change? Because once again, if people don't know about this, they're not going to do it. So we teach them how to position themselves and partner and promote together. And key number 4 is to leave legacy. We alliterate everything. That's our 5 keys and 5 L's. But it is all about relationships. We want the nonprofits to know, we don't want your donor list. We don't want to rape and pillage your emails. We want you to be able to let the donors that love you know that they can help you through real estate. We simply help you with the process when you find that donor, and we teach them how to do that.
Awesome. Cami, we have a question from the audience here. It says, what about leasing a property charity at 0, but instead of collecting money, owner only takes the monthly lease amount deduction from their taxes?
You know, there's a couple of other things over here that Tony's talked about. Our overall message here is to just let people know that this is even possible. We're not CPAs or attorneys or tax accountants or lawyers. We want you to go and speak to people that are in those types of professions to help you with that. We just want people to know. So Tony also mentioned over here, it's like gifting a car, like Cars for Kids. So in our presentation, we mentioned Cars for Kids and about 12 others that we found that are accepting gifts of real estate. And people would say, well, why would you mention Cars for Kids and this one and that one that takes real estate? Because we want people to know, if you just want a tax deduction, there's a dozen nonprofits you can donate it to get your tax deduction. But if you want your nonprofit, the ones that you love, to get the proceeds, Cars for Kids isn't going to give them the proceeds. Cars for Kids is brilliant. They're keeping all that money. So all the nuances about leasing and percentages and all that, we get into a little bit of that in the master class. This is more about that's even possible.
Awesome. So Paul is a real estate professional out of North Carolina. And so how would you help him understand this program better so that he can go out to the world and explain it?
So we do the masterclass, charitable real estate masterclass. 2.5 years ago, when I learned about this, I thought there are 2 million real estate agents. What if 1% of them, just 1%, had a clue and brought it back to their communities to let their nonprofits know about this? So we created the certification program, but we've started calling it in the last year the master class, because what we found is that half the people that come are the realtors, but the other half are the nonprofits and the financial advisors and the fundraisers and the concerned citizens. So we want people to know they can come to the master class for free to learn about this. We want to teach you. And if you as a real estate agent want to get certified, you pay a couple $100 and do that. But we really want you to come sit in and just wrap your head around it before you even worry about any of that stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. So how can people get in touch with you, Miss Cammie, if they're looking to join your masterclass?
Well, the Real Agents of Change, we are on all social media. Cammie Baker, we are actually now known as The Rock, RAOC, which is the acronym for the Real Agents of Change. So therock.com, therock.com/masterclass. And we've got a Facebook group. We've got a ton of videos on the YouTube channel that explain the benefits for the nonprofits, for the donors, for the realtors. So I just suggest open our minds. This is a win-win-win. No, there is no catch. How do we get paid? Well, when people want to get certified, or if they want us to do some marketing with them around cause marketing or social responsibility, we get paid for our brilliance. But there's no catch. People are like, the only catch is this. The reason that the nonprofits that you love are not getting gifts of real estate is because they don't know that there is a way to do it risk-free. And when you bring this to their attention, times 300, 500, 1,000 nonprofits in your marketplace, you become the go-to hero that they all need. And every one of them have wholesalers and buyers and sellers and investors and their staff and their followers and their funders. That's why this is the best way to have
I think it's amazing.
responsibility.
I think it's absolutely amazing. Everybody, Miss Cammie, stick around for some of the other segments here on the show. We'd love to go ahead and get your opinion on some of the matters. But thank you so very much for joining us today. We appreciate you immensely.
Yeah, good stuff.
You're welcome.
All right. That's Miss Cammie Baker, everybody. Go check her out, Cammie Baker. Nick.
Powerhouse.
Yeah. Cammie is awesome. Everybody should get to know her. Seriously. Take it from Sarge. Nick, how would you like to talk to your significant other and your children, and you're living in a house, but you're wanting to build a new one, and you go through a whole process, and you pick your forever home, and it takes 18 months to go ahead and build. You even have pool contractors looking at the pool. You even just bought the refrigerator for the house. You even sold your home. You're sitting in an Airbnb waiting to go, and all of a sudden the builder says, nope, sorry.
Dude, I can't believe this story. Like, I mean, I can believe it because we all understand contracts. We all are in a frenzy trying to get a house and not necessarily reading everything that we sign. But this is definitely about as unfair of a contract. It's probably as bad of a contract as the cell phone contracts you sign.
Ladies and gentlemen, watch this. Yeah. Watch this. Sit back. We're going to let you run all the way through it. This is 6 months of pain, or 6 minutes of pain, but everybody needs to go ahead and know what's going on. If you're a real estate professional, you need to take a close look at these contracts, really advise your clients, because something like this could happen.
A North Texas family says they have a warning for anyone who's buying a home from a particular builder. Just days before closing on their home, their builder backed out.
Yeah, it turns out the contract they were required to sign by the builder left them with virtually no protection. Consumer reporter Steve Noviello is on your side tonight.
So we had like an island.
And then had a movie room. Added a buffet cabinet area to the nook. Tracy and Donnell Brundage were days away from moving into their forever home in Oakleaf, Texas.
It was a 4-bedroom, 4.5 bath.
Here it is, completed. They had movers booked, even bought a fridge for the kitchen. But 6 days before closing,
Just unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
After the couple spent 16 months on the build, managed months of supply chain delays,
We were really patient with them.
and spent thousands in escrow and upgrade money, this text message changed everything.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Glacier Custom Homes, Kindred Homes, has decided to terminate the sales contract with you dated 12/15/2020.
The builder was backing out. A clause in the contract allowed them to cancel for convenience and put the house on the market. The new price, $300,000 more than the Brundages contracted to buy it for. Tracy, Donnell, and their 1- and 4-year-old sons were about to be homeless.
Still in disbelief, really, to this day.
The couple is suing Horton Capital Properties, the parent company for Glacier and Kindred Homes. The lawsuit alleges the builder coerced the Brundages to sell their home under threat that the building project would not continue and in reliance that Glacier would deliver the final building product.
It was contingent based on us selling our previous home.
Tracy and Donnell agreed to sell their current home before the builder would sheetrock their new house. If they didn't have their house sold before the new build was done, there was an option to pay $2,000 a month in carrying costs to the builder to buy more time. But in an email from the builder in September of 2021, the couple was reminded, quote, "You need to go ahead and start working on getting your house sold because that pay for grace period was now gone." It reads, quote, "Upper management will not be granting contingency extensions."
Our previous home went under contract in less than a week. And so that was not the issue at all.
Their buyer gave the Brundage family a lease back so they could stay in their house past the date the builder said the new home would be done. But when that day came,
January of 2022, the house is not even close to being done. So, okay, well, we moved, going to an Airbnb.
inconvenient for the couple and their kids, but they thought it would all soon be worth it when their forever home was done. Donnell had a pool company design their new yard.
They actually came out and surveyed the land, made us a whole mock-up image of what they were going to do.
Then closing, April 15th. It was supposed to be the home stretch. Kindred Homes tells the couple they need to move the closing due to a delay.
There was a delay on carpet, which caused them to reschedule the closing to April 22nd.
Another hassle for the young family, but after 16 months of moving, building, and delays, they saw it as just a final speed bump. Then that text message. 6 days before the new closing date, the builder was canceling the sale. The escrow and upgrade money they had held for more than a year would be refunded.
No reason, no nothing. Like, can you actually do this?
This is basically an agreement to hold you hostage.
We asked attorney Jason Friedman, who is not associated with this case, to review the Horton Capital Properties sales contract.
If you're signing a contract like this, you could be homeless.
Unlike a Texas Real Estate Commission or TREC promulgated sales contract, which offers protection for both buyer and seller, he says the builder contract, which Horton Capital required the Brundages to sign, left them vulnerable. It's important to note the contract clearly reminds buyers they can seek independent legal advice before signing. Tracy and Donnell did not. We asked Horton to walk us through the terms. They denied our interview request, saying it would be inappropriate. Instead, they pointed to the more than 160 homes they currently have under contract and add, while cancellations are not what the company intends, their contract clearly addresses the possibility which can be part of doing business.
In this contract, there is no protection, I would say, for the buyer.
Take a look. Section 10, termination. It reads, seller maintains the right to terminate this contract for convenience and without regard to fault or breach, meaning with no notice and for no reason at all, the seller can walk away. And Horton did.
It's basically a get out of jail free card.
Free because look what else it says. The contract limits damages paid to the buyer to $500. Try and sue? Not so fast. You've waived your right to a jury trial. Hold up the house with a claim against the title? Nope, you're not allowed. Do it anyway? Sorry, you've agreed in advance to allow the builder to remove it.
They know every angle you're going to come at them from, and they cut it off here.
So what's the solution? You could try and negotiate the terms of a builder contract before you sign. You could opt not to buy.
Would you ever sign a builder contract like that again?
Oh, no.
Or like Tracy, Donnell, 1-year-old Declan, and 4-year-old Donnell Jr., you could find yourself
3 words being in a contract gives you absolutely no standing at all.
canceled for convenience.
So why sue if the contract anticipates and blocks all of your remedies? Well, a judge could look at the language and decide, while legal, the terms are so one-sided that they should not be enforced. A reminder to anybody entering into any kind of legal contract, it should be reviewed by an attorney. You can read the full statement from Horton Capital Properties right now on our station website. And when you come see me online, facebook.com/SaveMeSteve.
I'm just going to have a moment of silence here real quick for that family. And for all of our viewers looking at this going, what? So, moment of silence. All right. Cammie, if you went ahead and bought your refrigerator and you were 6 days away from moving it, would you be a happy camper? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, I think. Tim, this happened in Texas. Cammie, would you be happy?
Oh, well, of course not. And when I was a real estate agent, some really horrible things happened, but something like this completely out of left field, it ain't right.
Yeah. Tim, this is going down in Texas. What say you?
I think that is not the Texas hospitality we would come to expect from this area. But yeah, that was just, I mean, reading the words in that contract and just hearing, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that is wild. That is wild. So, I mean, part of me wonders, were they represented at all, or did they just go straight to the builder? You know, part of the job of the professional realtor is to read these contracts, educate on what the implications are, so that they have a very good understanding of what they're about to get into and say, hey, you're literally signing everything away, and including your financial and literally shelter security to this builder, and you've got no protection. And that would have been fairly clear to most professionals. And so I'm just curious where was the stopgap there? But yeah, that is not, I mean, the ethical stuff in this whole thing just, it reeks. It's just not, it's wrong. So
these builders are just doing everything that they can to make sure that they get paid whatever they want to get paid when they want to get paid, right, Kirk?
Yeah, you know, buyer beware, consumer beware. You know, in this last 2 years of the real estate market, how many people waived their rights to appraisals, to loan contingencies, just gave it all up in the hopes that they would get into a home. And this and so many others, unfortunately, really a lesson. Get representation, read everything, and don't be afraid to walk away from a bad deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So those 160 additional contracts that they have right now in that same area, Nick, all of those homeowners are sitting there like sitting ducks as well, I'm assuming. What say you?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we hear about this all the time, like everything's okay till it's not okay. And I think during this pandemic, like they contracted for that house in December of 2020. A lot of stuff changed since then. If I try to think about both sides of the equation, right? So I've heard multiple stories from 2020 until now about the real estate market being hot and builders doing everything in their power. Not all of them, just like not all real estate agents are bad or good or whatever, but there's a good amount of builders out there that were doing everything that they could to cut out real estate agents, to go directly to consumer, to do a lot of things that they wouldn't necessarily be doing in a balanced market, right? It's a very small world that we live in. And I think customers got used to this new norm, right? And the new norm the past 2 years have been, well, in order to get this house, I got to sign this contract. I don't have any options. Or, I have to waive the contingencies. I have to waive the appraisals. I have to put down, an extra 20 grand to get, like, that new normal is breaking things, right? And now that we're starting to see some pushback with interest rates and everything, the tide's turning, and these builders that went out all regard for everybody but their own pocketbooks. Now, granted, builders put a lot of time, effort, and energy, just like everybody else in their business. They front a lot of things. I totally understand. But you You can't burn people like this in that small of a business, right?
I think it's happening everywhere, Nick. I think that this is just rearing its ugly head. And we talked multiple times here on the newsroom about these escalation clauses. We've seen some stuff even in Florida happening, right? So,
but like Tim said, most agents, we got to a point recently where a consumer thought, I don't need a real estate agent, or they would go into a model home and the model home center rep would be like, yeah, I could get you, hardwood floors for free if you don't bring your agent, or like backhanded comments and things that are going on. When at the end of the day, the real estate agent, for the most part, is transactional. So they're protecting the transaction, but you can get seller representation, buyer specific representation, and have people out there in your best interest, right? Because even if you're working with a transaction agent who isn't necessarily representing you individually, they still want the deal to close. They're going to read over the contract and make sure there aren't wonky things going on here that could, squib the deal for both sides. So I think right now, especially in the time that we're in, the real estate agent, the professional advisor is very, very important. And as we go into this new market that we're in, this recession, the professionalism of the agents that are out here to really help people is going to shine through.
So, ladies and gentlemen that are watching the show, I highly urge you, if you're looking to purchase a new home, hang out with Mr. Paul Anastopoulos in North Carolina, so that you can go ahead and get advice through all these things. Mr. Nick is hanging out down in Tampa. Tim's over there in Texas, right in the epicenter and heart of this. So if you guys have any of those situations, call a licensed real estate professional, preferably these fine gentlemen that are sitting here on the show, so that you don't get 8 days away from closing and have to return your refrigerator to Lowe's. Paul, this is very unsettling, and I do not like seeing our American citizens having to go ahead and deal with this kind of situation. What say you?
I don't like it either. And so there's two sides to the coin here that I see. There's the legal side where the builder did everything and put everything in writing and even told them to get legal advice before signing the contract. And then there's the ethical side on the other end of the spectrum. It's like, how can you do this to a family? And this is the very reason why you need to get a buyer's agency agreement signed with a realtor protecting you during this, because it doesn't sound like they had a buyer's agent, because they said nothing. This would have fallen on the buyer's agent's shoulders. We are responsible for going over the contracts. We are responsible for sharing the information, what's on the contract, to the client, and we are responsible for protecting the client throughout the transaction. I can't tell you how many times, Jake, I've sold new construction and I have pushed for a pre-drywall inspection. And a lot of agents won't do that. And how many times did we find pipes, the water pipes or the electrical wires, not correct, which would cause leaking in the future, mold in your insulation between your sheetrock, and then eventually you're going to have a very big problem.
Or fire hazards because of faulty electrical, and you name it, right?
Absolutely.
Or if all of a sudden a light doesn't turn on in the kitchen, now you have to access the drywall, and now you're into a big remodel, and it's unsettling and just keeps going. Yeah, it's a snowball effect. So, ladies and gentlemen, be aware. These contracts are out there. So tell your friends and family or anybody that you're speaking with that's even mentioning new construction about this. Have them come back, grab this clip, and put that in front of everybody that you know, because it's happening. So buyer beware, as they say. Thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate you. Nick, is the Fed getting ready to force us into a recession?
Getting ready? Are we ready?
They're meeting. So today and tomorrow, the Fed they have a big meeting that's happening right now, right? So all of this is going down, and we're hearing that the basis points are increasing, and they were shooting around talking points about 50, and then now thinking about 75. We're going to get Mr. Kirk in here as well to go ahead and join us on this. But check this out, Nick.
Roger, it's great to have you, especially on a day like today. Welcome.
Thank you.
I think that my key question is, how is the Fed likely to view this report? Are they likely to look at it and say, okay, we're going to stay on our current path, or we need to do more?
I think what they're likely to do is see this, as you indicated in the opening, as being inflation across the board, higher than expected, Some might see signs of peaking, but I think it's too early to call that. My expectation is that they will do 50 next week as signaled, but I think the tone around that is going to be leaning towards a bit more hawkish. I suspect when we get to the press conference, the possibility of 75 being on the table in the future will be talked about. And so I think next week it's the 50 that's been broadcast. After that, I think the risk, so to speak, is to maybe an extra 50 or two more than the market's priced in, and possibly a 75 if called for. And I think that will be the signaling the next time they have a chance to speak to us.
Well, in terms of expectations, one thing this report did was it sort of knocked out the idea that they would pause in September, as was indicated by Raphael Bostic, the Atlanta Fed president. So now there's 50, 50, 50 priced in June, July, September. Roger, but is there merit to a pause? Because is there a risk here that we could get into a stagflationary environment where growth does slow pretty substantially and we still have these higher inflation numbers?
Well, there's absolutely that risk, which is, I think, why the pause is not likely at this stage. It would have been one thing to consider a pause if we had seen some sign of inflation peaking and coming down. And, maybe the committee would have said, well, let's wait and see if we've got clear and convincing evidence, to quote Chairman Powell. But at this stage, I think the idea is going to be they will continue to have to raise rates, maybe aggressively, 50, 50, 50, maybe a 75, until we really get inflation under control. And that means, frankly, risking the possibility of, as Chairman Powell said, some pain. And so I think the trade-off has really got to be making sure that inflation is under control. That is job number one, number two, and number three. And if what that means is slowing and potentially dipping into a short, shallow recession, I think the Fed's willing to do that, because this inflation is really unacceptable and far out of the 2% range, obviously.
Well, and now there are questions about credibility, Roger. Today, the longer-term inflation expectations are starting to break out, raising the question of whether inflation expectations are becoming unanchored. Can you just explain why that's such a big deal to these central bankers and their credibility?
Oh, well, the whole issue of inflation expectations is incredibly important, because what happens is then it becomes easier to build in one of these spirals. You hear people talking about a wage price spiral. Wages go up, prices go up. There's also something that one might think of as a wage spiral. People leave one job to get more wages someplace else, and then their former employer is forced to raise wages. And so I think this question of inflation expectations is central to their thinking. We know that inflation is too high. We see it starting to broaden across many categories, as you talk about. We see it picking up and remaining high in the core inflation, taking out food and energy. And the last thing they want is to start to see inflation expectations become unanchored, because then households, businesses expect there just to be an increase in prices consistently, and that becomes something that's very, very difficult to deal with. So that's why I went back to 350s, maybe a 75, and to your point, they want to avoid stagflation, but they absolutely want to avoid inflation picking up. And if that means a short, shallow recession, then that may be the kind of pain that we may be in for.
Interesting, very interesting. Another moment of silence. Tim, what say you? Break it down for us. What in the world is going on?
Well, I feel like we're trusting the boat captain who brought us out in the rickety boat and pulled the plug on it to save us from it. But that's just where I'm at. The sky is falling. I've heard Kirk say that a few times. I mean, as compared to where we were in 2021, July, about this time in 2021, we're still up. Okay. We're still up on the market. So that's a 3-year, delta. However, we are darn close to breaking even. So that whole trajectory of everything's hunky-dory and just continuing to rise is starting to be challenged. Okay. And so this is where I come from. This is the position I take. And that is, there's some clearly hard to explain. Maybe they're not hard to explain, but they're hard to process as to why these things are happening. Okay. And I look at some of the indicators. I look at, the markets, the entire market's coming down in unison. I mean, that doesn't make much sense. But it's still above the 3-year delta. And so I come back to, there's still money that can be saved, but I also don't trust the long-term or even really short-term trajectory of this whole thing. I really don't. And so, I'm in the business of educating people on how to have alternative forms of investment that are protected from this market volatility. And, it's where I'm at. It's what I've done for my family. I have no concern at all if this thing crashes. I've got no concern at all. I'm in a very good spot mentally and emotionally. I would love to share that with other people. But right now you got people that are, like you said when we started the show, upset, freaking out, mad. They should be. And it's only going to get worse. That's just my opinion.
Tim, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can reach me directly at tim@patriotwealthnation.com, or you can check us out at patriotwealthnation.com.
Outstanding. Kirk, consumer faith in all of these talking points are at extreme low because people go to the pumps and they're filling up with ridiculous prices. They go to the grocery store and the food is ridiculous. I mean, everything. Rents are going up. Mortgage rates are going up. So the former vice Fed chair says we might get ourselves into a little bit of a pain recession. What say you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a shallow recession as he describes it, but all the indicators are there. Unemployment is going up. 10-year bond note has gone up. Mortgage-backed securities are dropping in value. So all of the indicators are there. I called it a while back last month. I'm looking at mortgage rates pushing the 7%. I think after this week, unless it settles down quickly, which we don't really see that happening, I think we're going to be at closer to 6% in the next couple of weeks if we're at 5.5% right now on mortgage rates for long-term 30-year mortgages. But, you got to look for the opportunities in any market, right? We talked a little bit earlier. If property values come down a little bit, you have FHA 203K. You have an opportunity to build your own custom home without a builder. Don't put yourself in a contract situation. Take control of it on your own and use your own financing. If you have high credit card debt, let's transition that credit card debt into long-term mortgage debt. Even at 7%, that's a heck of a lot cheaper than 19% people are paying their credit cards. Saw a report yesterday that family savings, household savings have dropped to pre-pandemic levels of about 4%, 4 to 7%. Whereas during the pandemic, the news cycle was saying 30%, people have 30% of their money in savings. It was all artificial to begin with.
Mark, what say you?
Well, the rates are definitely pumping the brakes, as we spoke about before, on the real estate market. But there are also a lot of people sitting on a ton of cash, so the rates don't really affect them that much. But the whole thing, I wish I was in the same place. I wish all Americans were in the same place that Tim Parnell is, because he's smart and he knows where it's at. But it is an opportunity. My opinion is that the prices of real estate are going to continue to increase. The rates are what they are. If you buy in today, you're going to get it at less of a price than you'll get it for a year or two from now. If your rate is 6 or 7%, as Kirk mentioned, you can always refinance that, but you can't change the price of housing. I think housing is going to continue to increase because of the lack of supply and people. There is still demand. The story talks about wage increases. I don't think we're seeing that. We're definitely not seeing it keep up with inflation at this point. So this is a scary show. My head's still spinning about the North Texas couple who got canceled for convenience. I mean, let's just do that with inflation. Let's just cancel this for convenience.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jake,
Nick, what say you?
I was going to say, let me jump in real quick, just because like this is where my mindset is. And I mean, our website is Patriot Wealth Nation. I mean, we take taking care of our fellow Americans seriously. We really do. And so I can't ask somebody to do something I'm not willing to do myself. And so I have to be able to represent what that is. And so that peace of mind is part of that representation. What I'll also say is that I do believe that we are in an economic global warfare. And whether that's metaphorical or reality, it is still happening, and we are experiencing it, and we will continue to experience it. And I can refer to how many food facilities have been crippled or burned down since the beginning of the year, over 19 at this point. I can talk about how the multiple markets are crashing, or at least dipping on their way to something else, maybe further down. I'll talk about the DEF, which is the additive for diesel fuel that you can't buy in bulk. And literally locomotives are having to dump a gallon at a time in a locomotive gas just so that they can run their trains on this diesel DEF combination to keep the supply chains running. And this, like, all these little things are happening. And DEF is based on urea, which comes out of China, and China's stopped the outflow of urea, obviously, because it is crippling for our supply chain. So we are being attacked from multiple different angles. Okay. So you are in financial warfare. And the way I look at it is Patriot Wealth Nation is your battle buddy. Okay. We want to work with you. We want to show you what the heck is going on and how we can help alleviate the pain, protect you from the rest of what's coming. So I just get fired up about this topic. Yes, Mark, I agree with you. We're in scary times. This show is deep. However, having a plan, being able to step into a plan and taking action is the most important thing you can do. Most people don't even know that there's an option that they've got, and that's all we want to educate on. So that's what
I highly urge everybody to go check out Patriot Wealth Nation, get in touch with Tim and his whole team, and just find out what it's all about. So once they start pulling you guys behind the curtain, I think your mind is going to go in 1,000,000 miles per hour, and your eyes are going to be wide open. So get prepared. Don't be not prepared for any type of financial storm. Nick, what say you on all this?
I mean, Tim always nails it, and he's a living representation of it. I joked about it the other day that I got chili from Wendy's and there was no meat in it, so I knew we were in a recession, whether it's a shallow recession or not. I did pay attention. Warren Buffett, when he speaks, I usually pay attention, and he was talking about it was either a month or 2 months ago in his annual address, if you will, that he's really heavy on cash right now, and his words were, in case the economy stops. So that is a very interesting statement coming from somebody who knows a hell of a lot more than I do. So, like Tim says, eyes wide open, optimistically cautious, but there's not a lot we can do, right? I mean, we can all brace for impact. We see the impact. We just don't know how bad it's going to be.
Paul, what's your gut take on everything that's going on? The Fed's meeting today and tomorrow, and they're getting ready to ratchet up rates. They have to go ahead and do what they think is right to curb inflation, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
let's see it.
I think people need to be prepared, and I also think, and when I mean prepared, learn to live a little bit off the land, off the grid. And I'm not trying to sound like a extremist or anything, but I had my macroeconomics professor was a World War II veteran, and he was in Germany, and he said, when the times get tough, know that the interest rates on everything will go up. That's the only way you're going to control it. Everything, when there's too much inflation, the only way as a nation to balance that out, you have to raise interest rates to control that. And that's where we're heading. And when interest rates go up, it's going to be harder on the entrepreneur. If you can find another source of business right now for an additional cash flow, I would go for it. Checking your risk topics. I mean, you might lose it. I don't know, but I do know. I just prepare that things are going to get tough, and we need to be thinking smarter.
Get those feet pics ready. I'm telling you. Get the pedicure going.
Get prepared. Stock up the saddlebags of your Harley for a good trip. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get into our last segment here. We're going to roundtable it with everybody. We're going to tie into Idaho's housing market cooling and doubling inventory. I think that we're going to see different micro markets affected in different ways because of the price increases we've seen during the pandemic. But let's find out what's going on in Idaho.
In our continuing Boomtown series, we are committed to tracking the growth of the inland Northwest.
Idaho's hot housing market is starting to slow down. KREM 2's Janelle Finch talked to one North Idaho real estate agent about the state's property values.
Idaho real estate agents say the COVID-19 pandemic created its own housing market game, where sellers could expect nearly half a dozen offers on a single home. But now things are a little bit different. Agents are saying the market is becoming more normal. But what does that really mean for people looking to buy or sell a home? Well, I sat down with an agent here in Post Falls to talk about what this means for people looking to make the move or get out of the gem state. The Idaho real estate market is shifting, according to realtor Greg Washington. He says the COVID-19 pandemic created more competition for Idaho home buyers.
Used to be like in the last couple years, people were buying homes sight unseen. They were making ridiculous offers just to get an opportunity to play.
But now, buyers have more options when it comes to finding their perfect home. Real estate agents are watching the Idaho housing market become more normal.
As far as more normal, I would say that buyers have more opportunity. They're still competing. They still have to be strong. But they have opportunities. They might have, instead of one house to go look at, they might actually have 3 or 4 or even 5, depending on the price point. Whereas a couple years ago, you were lucky if there was one house available that you could go look at that wasn't under contract yet.
According to the Coeur d'Alene Association of Realtors, in the last 4 months, the number of active home listings has increased from 180 to over 400. Buyers can be more selective, which means increased competition now for sellers.
Rather than competing for, a half dozen buyers, they're thinking in that term, they're competing against the neighbor down the street who also has their house available for sale. It was a hot commodity the last couple years, but now they are competing with other sellers.
Washington says sellers don't need to jump at the first offer they get, but be realistic when entering the market as it continues to change.
We tell them now that things have cooled. It's not alarming, but we should price the properties appropriately rather than reaching for a big number.
The Coeur d'Alene Association of Realtors says the median price for a Kootenai County home has been on a steady incline. As of April 2022, the median price for a Kootenai County home is $550,000. And while real estate agents here in Idaho say the housing market is cooling off, valuations on homes are still fairly high, which means high pricing isn't going away. But as opposed to it being every home in Idaho being expensive, it's now going to be more condensed and centralized in those high demand areas like downtown Coeur d'Alene. In Post Falls, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Break it down for us, Mr. Kirk. Take it away.
Yeah, the markets are shifting, but as of a survey from May 30th from MBS Highway, Barry Habib, we ran a survey of 2,000 real estate agents or more around the country. 90% of them are still seeing a lot of activity in their market, and about 75% are still seeing upward pricing pressure. So we're not quite there where it's tipped. We're definitely going to see this change. I mean, look, the market is what the market is, and it's obvious, right? Things are slowing down. It's shifting from a hot seller market to a hot buyer market. It just means we have to be more strategic in how we go about buying property today.
Yeah. Mark, you're one of California's leading appraisers, and you teach all other appraisers how to appraise. So break it down for us. Micro markets being affected, high, maybe unemployment rates start to go ahead and increase, and there's a lot of the localized contributors here, right? So what's your thoughts on this?
All of us in this space need to be aware of our own little micro market, as you say. Boise, Coeur d'Alene kind of remind me of the way that Phoenix and Las Vegas blossomed, and everybody made a mad rush over there. What we need to keep an eye on is if you scour your MLS, you're a realtor, you have access to the MLS, keep track of how many houses are pending and how many are active, and just take a look at that and look at the trends, because what I'm seeing here is a shift, as Kirk mentioned, regardless of rising interest rates and the rest of the world, the sky falling around us. We're starting to see more homes come on the market as people tend to think that, oh, maybe this is the top, or maybe I could use some extra money to fill my tank, and let's just get out now while we can. But if you really watch those trends and you look at the pendings, what we're starting to see here is a little bit of increasing supply and demand starting to head the other way. And I'm sure we're seeing that in Coeur d'Alene and in all of these hot markets. Tampa, Nick could, let us know about what's going on in Florida. It's not only are we smelling the brake dust, they're burning hot. And the smoke is coming out of those brakes right now. And I think we're going to continue to smell that.
It's definitely a pendulum, right? It swings. It's real hot for a long time, then it's going to go real cold, and it's going to come back. Business cycle says, and the history of real estate in the United States says, average of 3% appreciation is healthy in this country historically. And I would expect we're going to see that again. So button down, weather the storm, and get some good advisors around you. Make some good
Exactly.
decisions.
Do your own homework and do your own research, because when you look at what is the definition of a recession, is 2 quarters of declining or slowing GDP. Don't tune in to the stuff that says the sky is falling. Make up your own mind about what's going on there, and get a hold of somebody like Tim and be preemptive in this whole thing.
Tim, we have a question from the audience here. Miss Laura, great question. What are your suggestions for the average American with one stream of income looking to buy a home within the next year? Tim, what say you?
No, I think that's a very fair question right now. The thing about buying a home is what your mortgage is. It's not going to be variable. It's not going to be based on the fluctuation of markets like a rent might be. And so you have the peace of mind of knowing that. So what you want to do, talk to a solid lender like Kirk and figure out what you would qualify for. I know Kirk has a formula he likes to use where it's 15-year, what would be your 15-year mortgage rate, and what do you qualify within that construct? And then if we had to push it out to more years, how much more home could you get for, that kind of money? But yeah, if you know that you've got job security, and that might depend on how long you've worked in that particular job and what its, long-term viability is with things going on. If you feel pretty good about that, and your that wage, that percentage of what you're going to buy and what comes out of your paycheck makes sense. But as long as you're able to put money aside and for the cost of living going up, and you're going to be there for more than 5 years. I mean, that to me seems like the basic checklist to just kind of keep things in perspective as you move forward on what you ultimately decide.
I'll add to that.
My suggestion here real quick is, possibly look at additional ways to go ahead and earn revenue, even if that means working in the evenings or on the weekends or finding something creative or things like that. It's always a good idea to go ahead and increase your revenue, especially if you're on a fixed type income, and maybe look at your support structure. And that little bit extra at the end of the year does go a long way to offset inflation, and it goes a long way to go ahead and offset any type of future instability. And as Mr. Kirk says, we're seeing our average actual percentage of savings go down as a nation. Maybe it's time to go ahead and stop that from going down. Obviously, there's things that are happening that we can't affect as far as change, and that's at the pumps, that's at our purchasing. But maybe it's time to go ahead and strap up our bootlaces a little bit and make sure we can stop that going down. Kirk, what say you?
Yeah, make sure, in addition to everything Tim said, I love the idea of qualifying on a more restrictive program to make sure you can afford it long term, and then using that longer term mortgage to create flexibility. I'm personally not a big fan of 15-year mortgages, because I can create my own 15-year mortgage with a 30-year mortgage by simply making a couple extra payments a year. It'll pay off in 15 years, but then I get some flexibility. So we want to reduce interest costs always. But in this environment, don't worry about the interest rate. Worry about your affordability. Take the higher interest rate and pay as few points as you need to get into your home, and put as little down payment as you need to. Preserve your savings. Down the road, during recessions, housing is done historically well, and we expect it's going to go up in value. And because interest rates are going up right now, just like that pendulum I mentioned earlier, housing prices go up, go down. Well, so do interest rates. Interest rates are rising. They're going to go down over the next 2 years. As the recession ends, those rates will come back down, and you'll be able to put yourself in a better position. And then you can call Tim, because you'll have free cash flow money that you can invest somewhere else for your family and your future, and really let that nest egg start to grow exponentially.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, real estate professionals that want to be armed with some additional knowledge as far as lending programs, or maybe tactics and strategies that you can be discussing with your prospective buyers and sellers that turn into buyers, or friends and family. Kirk, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can always reach me at kirkjaffe.com. or 818-469-2189. I do work nationally. I'm happy to help anyone that's involved with this show or watching us today.
Paul, in North Carolina, here a month and a half ago, we were talking about inventory, and then now we have a lot more inventory starting to hit the market. These prices are starting to increase to where maybe it's not just demand, maybe it's I don't even have the ability to reach for that price anymore compared to what I was previously qualified for. What's the inventory looking like in your neck of the woods these days in comparison to, let's say, last month, a couple months ago?
Absolutely. So today we have 1,756 homes on the market, so 1,756. A couple months ago, we had around 1,400. So we're up about 200 homes. 78 are pending, 28 closed today. And new listings, there's 31 new listings. And I'm going to tell you, I'm picking up another listing. And we did an appraisal on it, and it came in this morning, and it's not going to be what they thought it was. I'm going to tell you right now. And I did pull comps. And the comps were a bit higher than what this came in. And so I really think it would be a very good strategy for real estates right now to get sales done. If you have buyer clients that are locked in on an interest rate, we're seeing a little bit of a flexibility now of more homes on the market, which means people are generally will be willing to take less because there's competition. You can get your buyers in right now. There's a cusp. This is how I feel. Nick, please correct me if you disagree. But I feel there's going to be a cusp. So if you're an active agent right now, because the inventory is starting to flex a little bit, like we jumped up 200 homes since last couple months. And that's just my opinion. I think that we got to go hard. We got to go strong and no breaks.
So, Nick, we're seeing changes happen week to week. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the Fed is meeting, making changes every couple of weeks. We're seeing the story turn, and it's pretty crazy out there. What say you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm actually seeing price reductions, right? Week over week. I just saw one this morning on a condo, a $20,000 price reduction. It's probably the largest price reduction I've seen in 12 to 18 months, right? So yeah, things are definitely changing. As far as like, what do you do if you're single income, right? So I like that question a lot. And you know, Tim talks a lot about being financially stable, making good decisions, knowing how to prepare and plan. If you are, so I guess two types of people, right? You either have a job, a job, and a steady income. You've been working for a place for a while. You're not necessarily entrepreneurial, or you're a business owner, like all of us are on this show, right? If you're a business owner, now's the time to double down and get as many streams of revenues that you possibly can and just expand your business as much as possible. Look for weaknesses in the market and take advantage. Business people right now, there's a lot of millionaires that are going to be made in this downturn. So don't panic. If you're a W-2 employee and you work for if you have a regular job and you're worried about your income, I'll also tell you right now is a really good time to play the market, right? If you're nervous and everybody's got to take their own risk, as much risk as they possibly can stand. But if you have been in a job for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and you've been making the same income 2 years, 3 years, 5 years as you have been, the best time to get another job is when you don't need one. So if you're making the same amount of income and you've been doing the same thing for a while, I would highly recommend that you look alternatively to other companies that also have other employees like you and see what the job market's producing. You might be surprised. You could be making $2, $3, $5, $10 an hour more in another company at doing the same exact job that you're doing now, and you don't even know because you're not exploring. Right. So if you're not advantageous to go start a business and make a product or whatever, like at least look at your job market and what you're doing and see if you can extend your personal income with another company. There's a lot of opportunities out there right now.
Hey, Paul, what's our slogan for 2022?
No breaks, charge hard. And
that's right.
I love what you said, Nick. The best time to get a second job is when you don't need one, because while you're out horse playing around, someone else is working harder. And I love that. I really do. That resonates really well with me. I really like that a lot.
Paul, how can people get in touch with you if they need representation in North Carolina?
Absolutely. So my phone number is area code 336-963-3684. You can also reach me on my social media, Paul NC Realtor, and I'm looking forward to helping you guys.
That's Paul, ladies and gentlemen, out of North Carolina. We love him, and so should you. If you need representation in that state, call him. And if he can't help you, he knows the right people to get you in contact with, period. So, all right, Mr. Mark, if you are a real estate professional or appraiser or just need to understand what's going on with home values, how can people get in touch with you?
Reach out to me by email. It's Mark, M-A-R-K, at cmpappraisal.com.
cmpappraisal.com. I think there's going to be a lot of controversy as we start moving forward in the marketplace as far as appraised values because of the tumultuous water that we're in right now. So everybody can go ahead and get in touch with Mr. Mark. He's awesome. Thank you, Mark, for contributing today on the show.
Thank you.
Yep. Tim, once again, if people are wanting to go ahead and shelter themselves from unknown future financial concerns, how can they get educated on alternative things?
Yeah, no, we do. Everything we do is education. So one other thing I want to put out there is if you know someone, whether it's you or someone you know, and you have someone on your mind that says you think, they should probably have a conversation with Tim. Just know that everything we do is educational. We don't charge for anything. It's 100% just us giving information, sharing it with you, and up to you to decide what you want to do with it. And we actually do consultations on extra income, and we just brainstorm with you. You've got talents, you've got strengths that you haven't thought about. We pull that out of you and go, okay, well, here's some options that could be right for you. And so we just kind of have that real conversation with people and open their eyes to things they may not have known. If that's an extra income thing, I think what Nick was saying was just, now's a great time to get extra income just by switching jobs and career, or not necessarily careers, but companies you work for, because they're willing to pay you more because they're looking for good quality workers. And so take advantage of that. But we have those conversations. And so you can reach me at tim@patriotwealthnation.com.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. That was Tim Parnell, ladies and gentlemen. Nick, Kirk, should people get in touch with Tim?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You got to build your team of advisors in this market. We're talking about getting second jobs. Not every job's going to qualify for income in terms of getting a new mortgage. So you want to meet with your mortgage advisors, start to get pre-qualified now. Even if you're a year out or 6 months, it doesn't really matter. Do it now so that you understand how it's going to plug in. And also for real estate agents, you got to change your strategies. It's not just about issuing the biggest loan approval letter anymore. It's about issuing a loan approval that's in alignment with the offer you make. I'm starting to see some loan approvals that are, offers are getting bumped up because the approval letter came in higher than the property was worth. So Amen. Be careful in the shifting market.
Amen. Once again, Kirk, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, reach me at kirkjaffe.com or 818-469-2189. Happy to help you. Happy to give you a copy of the book, Relationships, and help you grow your businesses as real estate agents.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Kirk. We appreciate you. That was Captain Kirk Jaffe, Nick.
Captain Kirk.
He looks better every single time he hits the show. I think
I
have
a
little bit of a man crush on Kirk.
Yeah.
And that's weird for me to say. Did I just say that live on air?
I think you did, but I
can't take it back now, can I?
No, you can't.
Sure. Okay. All right. Moment of silence.
It's 2022, buddy. It's all right.
No breaks, as Paul said. No breaks. Outstanding. Well, this was Real Estate America's Newsroom. We stream live every Tuesday and Thursday at high noon Eastern, and we really appreciate and love all of your support. If you guys could go ahead and do us a big solid, a big favor, put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of thought into this. So it would be very kind of you to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, comment on our shows, tell us if you like what we're saying or if you don't like what we're saying. If you want to be part of the show, go to reunation.com. Check out the Real Estate America's Newsroom over there. You can enter your comments if you have anything that you want us to go ahead and speak about, or if you want to be on the show. Also, if you actually enter your information, we kick out show notes to everybody so you can kind of see some of the reports and resources that we speak about. So, Nick, do you think it's smart for people to go ahead and maybe smash or ring the bell without hurting their computer?
Yeah, share the show, man, because we are putting a lot of time, effort, and energy into this. We'd like for more people to be involved for sure. If you're in this industry, if you're in real estate, if you're in mortgage, we're keeping you guys up to date on what's going on. More importantly, what's going on in the mainstream news, so that you know what your customers are thinking about right? We talk about scripts and how to actually talk to people. If you know what your customer's thinking, you know how to talk to them and relate to them. So that's what this show is all about. Also, like Jake said before the man crush statement, go to RU Nation and fill out the form so that we can get in touch with you if you want to be on the show. We have coverage from multiple states across the country right now. We want other states to be involved. We like to have boots on the ground information along with media, national media coverage, so that we can get you guys informed as much as possible to make you better, right? That's what this is all about. Make the industry better.
Thank you, Mr. Nick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up here. Come check us out on Thursday, same time, and we'll be back with some more hot news from the mainstream. Have a blessed rest of your day. I just really like that firework.
You called me blowing my nose. I blew my nose right when the firework went off.
I know. That's all right. All right. Be blessed, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
See ya.